Today's topic is on New Year's resolutions, kind of timely for this time of year. As one person just told me, maybe you're not thinking about your New Year's resolutions yet, but it's kind of important to think about it ahead of time, and we'll kind of look at why. Without further ado, I'm Tressa. Tressa Brindle. This is my clinic in InHealthRVA. Magdalena Reyes is the nurse practitioner here, and together we practice holistic integrative functional medicine, offering integrative primary care and deeper dive functional medicine investigation and health journeys to help you optimize your wellness and prevent health conditions. So today's topic is New Year's resolutions, and we're gonna, with everything we do here, you'll see me always trying to figure out the why, the mechanics, how did we get here? By understanding the underlying paths of why things happen, that will allow us to create the correct solutions for things. So for New Year's resolutions, we're going to talk about a little bit about why people make them, and then why also to acknowledge they're so rarely successful. We're going to talk about root causes and how to create SMART resolutions. We're going to talk about how biology can influence both what resolutions we're making, but also making sure that our resolutions are biologically appropriate. We have to consider where our biology is and whether or not we're creating resolutions that fits them. And we're going to talk about the science, the psychology of behavioral change. So why do we make resolutions? This is a quick topic. I mean, some people make resolutions because there's something about the winter solstice, the new year, where it's kind of a chance to start some project that maybe you've been wanting to do or have been putting off. Some people don't make resolutions. I'm not much of a resolution maker myself. I kind of just jump into whatever it is that I want to change that I want to make. People might have some goals they're working towards. They might feel that something is not going well in their body or their life, and it's an opportunity to try and invest the bandwidth and time and energy to do something about that. Maybe there's something that feels out of control in their life. And a topic I'm very interested in is, what is a person's potential? There doesn't have to be anything particularly wrong, but I'm always a believer in constantly trying to understand what our potential is and manifest it here in this life. So resolutions can be an opportunity to do a deeper dive into yourself and see where you want to go next. Taking inventory of yourself, who you are, what stage of life you're in, and where you want to go. If anybody has any particular reasons or resolutions, then you're welcome to put them up for me I can speak more specifically in some of the examples. So the statistics tell us that resolutions don't work. 40% of people about in America make New Year's resolutions. Less than half of the 40% of people last till February, and only 9% of New Year's resolutions even succeed. So, just based on an analysis of the statistics, there doesn't seem like a lot of point in making resolutions. But with all issues, health issues, behavioral issues, if we understand how and why resolutions don't work, we can make appropriate targeted solutions. So why don't resolutions succeed? They're probably not goal-oriented. They are goal-oriented versus process-oriented. A lot of people will put a kind of far out-reaching goal and not think about the steps they need to get there. They might not actually be addressing the underlying issues. One of the predominant New Year's resolutions people always make has to do with weight loss. And weight is a branch of underlying root causes. And so if we aren't paying attention to the process of what are those root causes, then trying to treat the branch result of those root causes, the weight gain probably isn't going to be very successful. They might lack like external accountability and support. We'll talk about the science of behavioral change. External accountability, support, getting motivation internally and externally is crucial to making resolutions succeed. There might not be much of a plan, steps, checks, or rewards. It could just be, I better lose 30 pounds by spring. There can be an all or nothing mentality, meaning like I either did it or I didn't. Oh, I failed. I'm off the wagon. To heck with it. It doesn't matter. It's February. I give up. Also, people might be making too big of a goal, too big of a changes, rather than doing the intermediate, more doable steps. And a big topic, especially relative to functional medicine, is making sure that your goals align with biology. If you want to even set career goals, you have to think about like, Am I getting enough sleep? Am I taking care of my body? Am I getting the exercise and nutrition I need so that I can push myself extra hard at work, working longer hours, keeping my brain very active? Am I giving my brain what I need to be able to get ahead in my career and make career goals? So we'll talk more about how biology is important to understand and aligning with your goals. And also it could just be misaligned with the environment and the situation. Maybe you have a goal, but we see a lot of moms here, and it's hard if you have 2 or 3 kids and maybe you're working, or if you're not, even if you're not working, to set sort of other goals around just kind of getting through the day to day and taking care of raising children. So we have to pay attention to aligning our goals to our environment. So anybody, I think, has probably heard of S.M.A.R.T goals. That's an acronym. And it can be a really good idea to use some framework of S.M.A.R.T goals in making your resolutions so that you can understand them, make processes and interim goals, and lead you towards the appropriate goal and towards success. So number one, we want to be thinking about what are the root causes. So it could be a career change. Often it's weight. It could be wanting to meditate or deal with stress. So understanding behind each of those things, what the root causes of those things are, is really, really important to be able to make the right goals. So what are you really trying to fix? What's the situation you're hoping to change, or what created it? What's preventing me? It can be as important to acknowledge what your assets are as to acknowledge what things might be in your way. So for example, let's say it is maybe stress related. What's preventing you from having better stress management? And what are your assets? Take stock of what assets you have, what things you can do, what things you have, what skills and resources you have, and take advantage of those in creating your goals. When we send out the webinar for the replay, you'll have a direct link to this blog that's on our website here. Whoops. On this blog, you'll see that there's actually a worksheet that helps work you through the S.M.A.R.T goals. So we'll see more examples of that later. So S.M.A.R.T goals, you want it to be specific, and it's important that it's addressing the root cause of your goals. Like if you want a career change, you want to be taking stock of where you are right now, where specifically you want to go. You want the goals to be measurable, rather than just like, hey, I want to do better in my career. Think about analyzing the organization, the structure of the organization. Think about where you can actually technically go and make a timeline for it. Make it achievable. Think about the smaller steps along the way and align it with your biology. We'll get more in more depth on that later. Make sure that it's relevant to the underlying root causes, your motivations, and your blockages. So your assets, as well as the things that might be in your way. And make it time oriented. It doesn't have to be a total strict deadline with time orientation, but saying, okay, I'll do it this year. You need to set interim goals and roughly, okay, in the next 3 months, I'm going to do this. And then by midsummer, this will happen, so that you can feel all of us do better if we know something's happening around the corner, and make sure that you're doing those small steps along the way. So a popular one, and if I'm wrong, you guys can tell me what other ones, but a popular one often is around weight, fitness, something along those lines. So I'm going to use that as one of our main examples. So this is the NOPE page. This is not, this is very commonly how people make resolutions around weight loss. I'm just going to lose 30 pounds by spring. Okay, so specifically, what's spring? And then analyzing the root cause. What caused the weight gain? We're saying, okay, after the holidays, splurges, after New Year's, I'm just going to go on the calorie restriction diet. I'm not going to have any carbs. Really, really, really important. This is something I could talk much longer about. Does this align with your biology? Is 1,500 calorie, do calorie deficits ever work for anyone? I'm not a big believer in big calorie deficits for weight loss. Do you have accountability for this? Saying something like, okay, I'm just going to start exercising 5 times a week. Again, does this align with your biology? Do you have a background of fitness that you could just jump into a fitness routine that frequently? What's your accountability? Most people, statistically, just go into the gym by themselves. It ain't going to happen. You have to figure out how to create the systems to support you, to align with your goals. And then having a goal of losing 2 pounds a week, I would say that does not align with most people's biology. I think that's an unrealistic goal, especially for long-term maintained weight changes. And again, what has this got to do with the root causes? And we'll go more into that around weight and eating later. Any questions so far? I don't see any chats. Okay. So here's an example of using SMART goals around something, a common resolution, New Year's resolution, such as weight loss. Make it measurable, achievable, and relevant. So rather than saying 1,500 calories, low carb, starvation, cutting out an entire macro group, how about talking about doing some integral steps along the way? Include one more vegetable per meal. A lot of people, when we're talking about the biology and root cause and psychology around eating and weight loss, it's a lot of more emotional eating. We're talking about the difference between hunger and appetite. Eating because you're bored, because you're rushed, because it's a habit. So taking a pause and breathing and practicing self-awareness when you're eating and before you're eating, so that you can really distinguish between hunger, appetite, what your drives are around those things. If you're not already active, a goal such as walking 5,000 steps a day, one of the things I often have people do is just start taking stock of how many steps a day they get without any goals. Let's say you're getting 3,000 steps on average now. So your goal would be to increase that by 1,000 steps. Once you get that to be a baseline, now you're at 4,000 steps a day. Now that's become a habit. Now move it up another 1,000 steps, move it to 5,000 and so forth until you're getting to about 10,000 steps or about 10K a day. That's a pretty good average amount of walking for general health. One of the things I like to point out around that is anthropologically, before humans became desk jockeys, which was only about the mid-20th century, not that long ago, humans averaged 6 to 9 miles a day just to get their regular day-to-day's chores done to survive. So being sedentary, getting less than 10K steps a day is very, very new to our biology. And sleep, CDC has declared a sleep epidemic. People seem to think that less than 7 hours of sleep is okay. It is not. For all sorts of goals and health goals, getting plenty of sleep. And then let's be specific around weight loss, specific around the root causes of maybe how a person would get excess weight. So are you stress eating or emotional eating? Are you eating ultra processed, highly addictive, unsatiating processed foods? Are you not moving enough? Are you not sleeping enough? So rather than saying, oh, I want to lose these 30 pounds, where'd they come from? How did it happen? Let's address the root causes. And that's a key topic in everything functional medicine. Analyzing a person's health, symptoms, goals, understanding how they got there, what the root causes are, what the contributing current variables and factors are, and creating a plan to address all of those things. And here's an example of making it time-oriented. Baby steps. The science of behavioral change, which we'll get into in a little bit, talks about doing little achievable goals along the way. One, you'll have less excuses to get out of it. Two, you'll get more reward as you're able to make these little goals. And so create doable goals along the way that give you successes, that give you reward, that keep you motivated. So it could be the first week is just going to bed a little bit earlier, walking a little bit more. Maybe in another half month, you're adding a few more vegetables, taking out one processed thing. So little steps. If the goal truly is, a lifetime goal, whatever it is, you have the rest of your life to fine tune it, to finesse it. You don't need to get there in 3 or 4 months. It's better if you do smaller steps, allow yourself psychologically to adjust, get into new habits, make achievable goals, knowing that this is going to be something that's going to be with you for the rest of your life, hopefully. So let's talk about why biology matters. And I know one person here specifically interested in the general topic of functional medicine. So this will show you a little bit more kind of how we might approach things from a neuroendocrine immunology perspective of understanding how the body works, how that creates symptoms and health conditions, as well as our psychology, our behavior, our mood. So we'll want to align our biology to our goals and align our biology in order to meet our goals. So we'll talk about what that means. So, whether it's career, relationships, fitness, health, weight, we want to understand our physical health. As they say, if you haven't got your health, you can't really do much else from that place. That's one of the founding mission and vision statements of the clinic, is wanting to ensure that people have their optimal health so that they can go out and manifest their potential in the world and not have health problems get in their way. So in the 21st century, Western science at least has really come to understand how our physiology creates our mental health, our conceptions of self, our motivation, our willpower, our desires, and our mood. So, we are just a big bag of molecules. Biology affects how we think, feel, energy, motivation, appetite, ability to sleep, whether we want to go out and have a conversation and be with someone, or we want to be home and by ourselves and isolate. So if we're thinking about what our goals are, let's think about our overall health. We want to align our goals with our biology and align our biology to meet our goals. So in functional medicine, we'll be considering everything from the column on the left, neurotransmitters, hormones, inflammation, which is the immune system, your sleep, your cell energy and mitochondria, your inheritance. There's certain things that predispositions you're inherited with, and your entire health history. And thinking about how those things influence and affect relative to making resolutions. Your mood, how much willpower you have. Willpower is a chemical state. If you are well-resourced, well rested, not stressed out, you'll have your maximum amount of willpower. If you are already stressed out, all of your tabs are open all of the time, maybe just because you have a very busy and active mind, maybe because there's lots of stress going on. If you're underslept, you're going to have less willpower to make the changes, to make the steps along your goals. You're going to have your motivation is affected by this. These are all chemical states that we've studied in human models and in animal models. I used to get to study some of this in rat models. You see social changes, social behaviors change, motivation, memory, all kinds of things affected by stress, inflammation, and so forth. Your energy is affected. Your ability to critically think, your hunger and your appetite is affected by all these things, as well as the set point of your weight. And set point theory for weight is a, kind of now well understood term that your weight has a certain set point, and it can be very tricky to get it to change around that set point. So if you're specifically interested in weight stuff, we can talk about more about that later. So this is kind of a pretty good graphic that shows a bunch of the different areas that we look at when trying to analyze a person's mental state, mental health, physical health. So you yourself is in the middle, your nervous system, your immune system, your endocrine or hormone system, and then whatever the heck consciousness is, psychology. All of these things are one big integrated systems that affect who you think of yourself, what kind of goals you might choose to make, and whether you have the motivation, the willpower, the self-esteem to go forth and carry out these goals. All of these things, the nervous system, the immune system, the hormone system, your psychological state, are informed by your inheritance. And these two outer circles are your inheritance. You have your genetics, your genetic code, which most people know about, DNA. And then you have your epigenetics on top of your genetic code. And if you are not familiar with that, epigenetics is which genes are turned on and which genes are turned off. So if you think of your genetics as a piano keyboard, the keys don't change. Same copy, same genes, same keys. Your epigenetics turn some keys on and take some keys off. You get a totally different note out of that. So epigenetic changes are and your genes turning on and off is in response to environmental cues. And so your epigenetic inheritance can greatly influence your stress, your mood, your sense of self, inflammation, weight, a lot of things about us. So fortunately, you can change your epigenetics by therapy, meditation, working on inflammation, taking care of your body, taking care of your health. So we can actually improve our epigenetic code, which influences basically our sense of self and our potential in the world. So fun, big topic. But all of these things are things we would consider around making resolutions so that we can make sure that we're understanding the root causes of the resolution, of why you're making this resolution, and make appropriate resolutions and create steps based on those root causes to get you towards that appropriate goal. Yeah, and there's the little plug about working with the qualified functional medicine provider to help you do the analysis to understand where you're coming from and where you want to go. So another fun topic is the science of behavior change, and you're going to see a lot in functional medicine. Everything is kind of like, and this is what the science says, and this is what the science says. So that's what we're trying to do with resolutions here. So the science of behavioral change is crucially important in setting our resolutions and our goals, for the new year or any time of year. So we're going to talk about a few different things around the science of behavior change. So it's one thing to say, and I'll just rely on weight because it's an easy one. It's one thing to say, okay, I want to lose 30 pounds. But we have to think about our mindset around this. Are we taking responsibility for how we got there? Are we taking responsibility for the steps we need to get forward? The other most important thing, I think, is to have compassion for yourself. You wouldn't treat anyone else probably like the way you might treat yourself in your own head. So it can be hard to know how to treat yourself if you have one of those guilt, shame, mean, bad demons in your head beating you up. So sometimes I think it's easier to try to remember to talk to yourself like your own precious child or your own best friend. Talk in your head towards yourself as you would to that other person. Banish the judger. No one ever got where they needed to go from shame, blame, shoulding, or guilt. It has no purpose. And there's some good literature. There's a great book called Soul Without Shame. If you need to do more work around that voice in your head, that inner critic. Be flexible. One thing I've learned the longer I've worked with people is plan on falling off the wagon. It's human nature. People are always like, well, I fell off the wagon, or, whatever terminology they want to use for that. I'm like, yeah, you and other 7 billion of the 8 billion people on the planet. It's okay. Plan on falling off. Get back on. The wagon's always waiting for you. So let's say you made it to January and then you fizzled out by February. Okay, March, let's get going again. You can always come back. Be flexible, be resilient. And if you can get rid of that judger in your head, it will be easier to get back on the wagon without that shame. And then I'm a big, big, big pusher of mindfulness and meditation. I was once told in some class I was taking, of course, it's important for all of us to probably do some counseling or therapy at some point in our life. But if we don't have some mindfulness, it can be tricky to understand and integrate the processing we're doing in therapy. So the same thing is true around resolution. Like, we really need to learn to kind of quiet the mind, get more present, be mindful, sense in, see where you're really coming from so that you aren't being driven by that chatter judger in your head, the ego mind. Next, it is crucially important to externalize it in some way, whether you're an introvert, even if you're a very, very private person, creating some sort of external artifact of your goals to help hold you accountable rather than just being in your head. Science has shown is really, really important. Now, if you are someone who is out there, putting it on social media, creating a campaign, telling your friends, asking them to hold you accountable, telling your partner, your loved one, your parents, your children, whoever is out there who can give you compassionate accountability. If you're more of an internal private person, it could be putting Post-its around your house with the resolution, the steps of the resolution, the motivational statements, maybe in places only you will see it, maybe in your phone, pop-up reminders, externalize the goal. Don't just rely on it being card cataloged in your head. I really, really love the idea of getting a sponsor. For example, in any addiction program, they find people have a lot more success when they have someone who has to support you, who has been there, who can be your person in your time of weaknesses. Most addiction programs are like that, and we're thinking about goals and resolutions. What we're doing is we're trying to break habits. That's kind of like an addiction, and to create new ones. So having a sponsor, someone to talk with, someone to meet with on a regular basis to hold you accountable, hold each other accountable perhaps, really makes goals more successful. Also, set interim checkpoints and rewards with external accountability. So, okay, maybe you want to get to a certain place in your career. What are the steps along that? Maybe you need to get some education. Maybe you need to put some resumes out. Maybe you need to make a meeting with your boss. Create the different interim checkpoints along the way and create some sort of a reward system. For me, I just actually love putting checks in boxes. I use Post-it notes. I love throwing Post-it notes out. So honestly, throwing a Post-it note, to me is a huge reward. But creating those steps, creating those check boxes, and creating whatever external accountability and rewards you need along the way. And social support. Even introverts, being an introvert does not mean that you don't need connection or social support. It just might mean you need it with a few isolated people and a lot more quiet time to reboot. But whether you're on social media, you could join a relevant social media group on Facebook, follow people on Instagram who are talking about what you want to hear. It could be people, groups in your neighborhood, in your community, with your church. If it's fitness or weight loss oriented, joining a fitness group, finding walking partners. If it's career oriented, joining some of the business groups. There's some women business groups in Richmond. There's Toastmasters for public speaking. There's networking groups. So creating some sort of external group with meetings that you kind of have to go to, even when you don't feel like it on a Thursday night, for example, will really help motivate you and keep you aligned and inspire you. So speaking of inspiration, everybody needs to work to create this. No one feels inspired all the time. I don't know about you, but at this time of year, I want to be in bed by about 8 o'clock. It's dark. So we have to understand ourselves with some self-awareness and create the appropriate inspiration to keep us motivated along the way. I'm a big believer in positive inspiration, but I do know people who do better with negative inspiration. Just like I can't even give good examples of it. I don't even want to say it on a webinar, but I have some friends who, want you to tell them that, hey, you're not doing well, do better, that kind of thing. Whatever works for you, there's no judge there. And then creating reminders of that inspiration around you throughout your day. It is day in and day out. You need to find some way to keep yourself inspired. That sponsor like-minded people, the groups, listening to education. I love podcasts, TED Talks. You can do a book club or keep books around, meeting new people. Again, the reward system can help a lot too, but create some inspiration for you to keep working towards these changes that you want to make. So this is I'm just going to brush through this a little bit. This is putting it together. This is the blog that you'll get a link to, the New Year's resolutions blog. It gives actually a worksheet. It gives the SMART goals worksheet so that you can actually do this for any goals in your life that you want to do to help you outline the root causes of your goal to create specific, measurable, interim attainable goals with time along the way. This is what the worksheet will look like. You'll identify root cause issues, create an example of what the solution might be, and then another box where you can put notes and resources. So yeah, you guys can look at that one on the website. We'll include a link. It's a worksheet to help you get to the root cause and understand the root cause of your goals or issues. You can use this for health issues. You can use it for personal issues, professional issues. It's all about just process-oriented, getting to the root cause of things, creating the right goals around the root causes and inspiration and notes to keep you going. So, resolution success is more likely to happen if you're identifying and addressing the root causes. So if it is stagnation in your career, maybe you've gotten too comfortable, maybe you've got too much going on in your home life, maybe you need education. So instead of just saying, hey, I want to make this much money by the end of the year, figure out why you're stalled. If you can figure out why you're not where you want to be, then create the goals around that. Align it with your biology. If there are physiologic physical things get in your way of meeting your goal. Maybe you're not meeting your goals at work because you're tired at 2 o'clock and you can barely think, or you don't have the energy or the willpower, the motivation to go out and do the next thing you need to do. Work on your physical health to allow you to support your goals. Make a SMART plan, use that worksheet, and then pay attention to the psychology of behavior change. Whether you think you can handle it or whether you think you can't, everyone needs to work on their mindset, create inspiration, create external affirmations of it, and accountability and social support. Don't just make it up in your head and think that it's going to happen. All right, I think that is it. So I'm going to stop sharing. And now we just hang out.